technical channel. Today we are going to discuss about change management. Change management is a major process available in ITIL and very much required for all the industries where they perform all kind of infrastructure changes. And we'll see about what is the best practices and best process available for implementing the changes. The objectives: study the adverse impact of change and minimize it. Create and maintain a change management process. If your organization has change management process, very well you can follow it. Otherwise, based on the presentation what we are seeing today, you can have process framed and you can make the use of this process and implement it for your organization. Prevent unauthorized changes. Once we have change management in place, we should ensure no associate or analyst is doing the changes into the environment without having the process followed. It has to be approved. Ticket has to be created in the system. It has to go through a change management approval, CAB approval, and then we have to go for implementations. So this process has to be followed across all the changes, whether it is a minor change or major change. Prepare a change and backout plans. So all the change requests created in the system, ticketing tool system, it will have all the change plans as well as backout plan. Though we are going to aim for a successful implementations, we need to have a plan for adverse impact. If there is any failure, what need to be done as an immediate recovery of the operations. Post implementation reviews of changes. We need to monitor the change implementation. Once the change is completed, we will be having a checklist and ensure all the services are back to the normal state and all the users are able to consume the services as usual. Maintain a record of all changes. For this, we need to have a ticketing system in your organization where all the changes are created in the system and all the evidences are attached to the ticket. We call it as a CR, change records. So it will have all information. So anytime we can refer the change informations from the database and measure the organization metrics. Key concepts in change, scope of change management. We are going to see all these things in the coming slides. Scope of change management. So here IT infrastructure component including documentations. For any kind of change implementation required for IT infrastructure devices, we are going to discuss over here and we are going to create a documentation for the particular change also. So that is covered as a scope. And here we'll have strategic, tactical and operational changes required for our organization. We will not do any changes or document anything on the business strategy because this is only a service operational report and support process. Types of changes. Majorly, we have three types of changes: a standard change, normal change, and emergency change. It differs company to company, but we'll discuss about standards available across all the organizations as a best practice. Standard change, otherwise called as a pre-authorized change, which is regularly happening in the organization and there is less or no impact because of this change. So the change responsible team, which is called as a CAB team, has given a pre-authorization so that we can implement this change without regular approvals from them. For example, and updating the antivirus in all the endpoints, which is happening on daily basis, regular basis. It is very rare that we are going to have failures because of wrong updates in the virus definitions, right? So it is called as a standard change. Normal change, it is a change created and implemented for the standard devices. For example, patch update, it is a monthly recurring activity, whereas it requires a downtime and we need to perform a lot of testing and implement it in the test environment and then only we can implement it for the production environment. Change requests will be created separately for test environment as well as for the production environment. And this change request will be undergoing a CAB management process and they'll be providing the approvals for implementing the changes. Emergency changes, it is a crucial change. For example, there is a vulnerability found in Microsoft product, and immediately Microsoft releases patches, and that has to be implemented immediately into the environment. Once we found out the solution, we have to test it in the test environment and go ahead and implement in the production environment. The approvals, CAB approvals can be obtained over the phone call or whatever the best methods available in the organization. Some of the key parameters: request for change. While creating a change record, we have to update the information in the RFC, and we'll be providing what is the change we are going to perform, what are the CIs, configuration items, going to be impacted, and what will happen if this change is not done. So benefits of this change, all those informations will be captured in RFC form. Change classification prioritization to classify and plan changes in order of impact and urgency. So based on the impact and urgency, we call it as a minor change or a major change. Coverage of IT infrastructure. Change models, it is a predefined way, procedure for handling known type of complexity. So this is the process we are going to discuss, but we will not be giving any kind of technical inputs for implementing the changes. FSC, forward schedule of changes. In bigger organizations, they are maintaining a dedicated calendar, and once the change is approved by the CAB members, immediately we have to go and update the calendar with the time slot whatever we have got approval. This will be helpful for bigger organizations where multiple towers are implementing the change on the same time. So network team will have different types of change, server team will have different types of change. Before I create a change request, it is my responsibility or the team's responsibility to go and check the calendar and ensure that there is no conflict available in the particular day, particular time slot. This is to avoid any kind of change failures and speed up the recovery process. If multiple teams are implementing the changes at the same time and there is a failure happens, it is very difficult to trace the reason for failure and take the remedial action. So that is why, as a best practices, we brought in this FSC, and each team have to update their change records, and they have to go and update the calendar so that other teams are aware about the change. PSA, projected service availability. Before implementing the change, while choosing the downtime for particular service update, we need to ensure the usage is very less by the end users, and maybe it is during the weekend or non-peak hours we have to choose, so that even if there is a reboot required for a particular service, we can reboot it and only less number of users are impacted. That is PSA. Backward plan. We need to ensure all the change requests are submitted with the proper details and get the approval from CAB, and focus on successful change implementation. Still, we need to mention the backward plan, like if there is any failure or issues happening after the change, what are all the actions you are going to take, like reversing the change or adding the other services, how you are going to recover the services to the normal state. So that has to be mentioned in the backward plan. Change advisory board. This is a very important board where we'll have key stakeholders from all the towers and from management team also. And there will be meeting conducted every week on a specific day based on the requirement. Some organizations will have twice in a week. Some organization will have weekly once only. And in this schedule, they'll be discussing about all the changes like server related changes, network related changes, database related changes, and everybody will be available in the call. They'll have the awareness about what is happening in the change environment. So based on the informations provided in the change records CR, CAB team may approve or reject the change. Based on that only, we'll go for implementing the changes. For any kind of emergency requirement, there is a ECAB available. We can call them for a meeting over a phone and discuss about the change and get the approval or email or a phone call. This is a workflow for implementing the change management process. Once you create a RFC, it goes for a application manager approval, and then it goes for a change manager. Change manager will be discussing with CAB team members and getting the approval in the CAB meeting, and we are publishing the calendar and we are implementing the change. There is a failure, we have to back out and process from the beginning and get the approval again and implement it. There is a success, we go for post implementation report, and then we will be updating the CMDB, configuration management database. If suppose this change leads to any configuration changes like addition of processor, addition of memory module, addition of hard disk, a kind of change in the existing setup, it is our responsibility to go to the CMDB and update the details. CMDB contains the database of all the infrastructure related devices configuration details. So any changes into the current environment, it has to be updated on regular basis. We have standard metrics available for change management, which is number of rejected RFCs. We need to ensure we provide quality update in the RFC so that it is getting approved and there is no rejection. Number of incidents occurred during the change implementation. How many incidents created post change implementation will be measured against each analyst, and it will be taken for future informations. Number of successful changes, number of unsuccessful changes, number of backward changes. It all depends on the analyst who is performing the change. So it is very much useful for measuring the analyst capability who is implementing the change. Average time needed to implement a change and number of incidents resolved by implementation of a change. Suppose a change is implemented based on the problem records, a problem solution. We'll have to see by implementing this change how many incident tickets are getting resolved. There are different roles available. Change manager, who is wholly responsible for all these kind of changes. We'll have change analyst and we'll have person to monitor the change also. We have cab members who is approving the change. So we are ensuring that by having this process awareness about the change, we will be implementing the changes in the organization after proper approvals. Our main responsibility will be reducing the impact of change implementation and successful implementation of the change and improve the services and quality of the organization. This is the end of the topic. Thank you very much for your support. For further kind of videos, please subscribe this channel. Thank you very much.